Welcome to Wake Up with Joni, the podcast where we explore what it truly means to live awake, aware, and aligned in a world that's constantly asking more of us. Here we have real conversations about relationships, resilience, healing, and conscious choice so you can navigate life with greater clarity, compassion, and courage. Today's episode is a deeply meaningful one as we explore conscious parenting, intergenerational healing, and how we relate to both our children and our parents with grace, especially through change, challenge, and loss. I'm honored to welcome back Liane Lambert to the show today. Liane is a spiritual mentor, energy alchemist, speaker, and author whose work bridges ancient wisdom with practical embodied spirituality. For decades, Liane has supported individuals and families in healing ancestral patterns, activating soul purpose, and living in alignment with their highest dharma. Today, we're diving into conscious parenting across the lifespan. This conversation is dear to my heart. We touched on it briefly in our first podcast together and decided that it deserved its own podcast. So here we are.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be able to start this new year with you and to be able to touch on these subjects that I'm sure will help so many as they navigate this year.
Yes, it touches everyone since one has to be born into the world. So they may not have children, but they definitely have parents. So this is interesting. Let's start with what is conscious parenting? What does that even mean?
Conscious parenting is living in heightened awareness and also guiding our children or the people in our small circles, our families, to also live in awareness of how they are being, how they are showing up in the world, how they are contributing, how they are managing their energy. And it's a tricky tool to teach, especially to younger, well, teenagers, I would say. Because they're not as willing or open to this because they are immersed in a world of social media and the ego starts to want to take over. But I believe that is an essential time to start to navigate that and teach them these tools.
Yeah, I think we even talked about younger kids. It's probably really powerful to teach kids how to be able to communicate, how to be able to say, that hurts my feelings, or ouch, or to know that what they're saying hurts another person, that empathy piece. All of those things are sometimes bypassed with the everybody gets a trophy culture.
So true.
And so teaching children compassion, teaching children empathy, once they get to the teen years, you'll have maybe a better time of it because teen years, and I love teenagers, I was once one, but we think at teen age, adolescence, that we know everything. So
Mhm.
it's interesting because the perspective or the perception of the world narrows in those years. And I was like, you don't have anything to teach me. So how do we begin to teach our younger children? And I mean, there could be grandparents out there listening too,
Mhm.
and they can learn tips and tools.
Yes.
Talk to the grandchildren. So talk to me.
Well, I would say, first of all, it's not about being right. And to show your human side, to show that I too have gone down this path, and these were the choices that I made, and you do not need to go down that same path. So, to create those choices and to really point out that there is no winning or losing, and it really takes away that pride of that the ego wants to hold on to, of needing to be right, because there is no right or wrong. So I think that is an essential part in the journey, and also to create space for them. Removing the need to be right is an essential part, pointing out that I will make mistakes, you will make mistakes, but those are just valuable lessons in this journey of life. And I'm going to share all it is that I have learned. And I hope that you take it to the next level. We want it to improve from one generation to the other. So to just release attachment to the need to be right and wrong altogether.
Let's talk about that because, as you said, attachment, I think it's an incredibly crucial piece of this is that parents often have an attachment to their children staying perfectly safe, their children achieving, their children going to the right school, their children dressing well, their children reflecting to the world for them. All those things, all those ego things that make the child a, I want to say, property in a way,
It
not
does
a
feel like
sovereign,
that,
yeah,
or a
not a
byproduct.
sovereign. Yes, yes. Here's the product of my loins. But they're not. They're sovereign beings. And let's take it to the spiritual piece because that's the most incredible and important piece. These beings, and I want you to speak to it, come in for a journey. They are sovereign whole beings that are now in these tiny little bodies. And then we pour into the tiny little bodies our beliefs.
Programming,
Yeah,
whatever.
social programming, the mores, the religion, whatever it is, we just pour it into them and say, this is the truth. And then they've got to spend the rest of their lives navigating what's true for them. So
Mhm.
hopefully that's part of the waking up, right? Wake up with Joni. But now, and this is a shift, Liane, is it's not so much about waking up. It's a how do we sustain the awakening? How do we regulate into that instead of all the other distractions?
For myself, I'm at a level in my parenting where I'm trying to really emphasize the energy that my children are embodying and how
Yes.
they can alchemize that in any given moment so that we are not stuck in this time loop. So that is for me imperative so that they can see that they maybe woke up one way and how they can shift their energy. What is the energy that they hold behind the words that they use? And I make a point of pointing that out to them. You're saying this, but it feels like that.
Mhm.
And so that they become more aware of speaking from a place of truth. And that empowers them. That's where I'm at in my journey with them.
This is brilliant because what you just said was you're speaking to your young children and remind me of their ages again.
13 and 15.
13 and 15. Okay, so they've gotten through the beginning stages of life and now
Mm-hmm.
that the world's not all rosy and cheerful as we once thought as a child before 10. And you're saying to them, you do not have to be at effect of your thoughts and your feelings, that you are not a victim to how you're feeling right now, and you can choose a different way. Like that will blow some minds that we can actually, really, that we can
It's
actually
true.
choose how we feel and how we navigate in the world.
Yes, that's next level. It's next level
But
in
you're
in
laying the
conscious.
foundation. That's so exciting. It is.
Yes, yes, because our emotional body is just communicating something that's underneath that we are holding on to based on experiences of the past, but it doesn't need to define where we're going. So to really practice presence and just reading the emotions as information and then giving them the tools to shift out of that so they can release that energy and then navigate their consciousness towards something else, something that's more meaningful, so that you can create the evidence you need to know that you can alchemize, you can elevate out of any situation.
Yes. And it's a beautiful invitation to our parents out there who are just doing the best they can.
Of
They're
course.
just doing the best they can. It's an invitation to stop trying to control and manage your children and instead meet them where they're at and deep listen them. I know that sounds grammatically weird, but to hear what they're saying underneath. And
Exactly, exactly. Because sometimes if we control, we're coming in with that energy, then they're going to go and sway in the opposite direction. And it's going against what your goals are. And it's really not about the stuff. It's about when we can And it can be a journey that you can do together. So as somebody who's just awakening into this process, I invite you to start taking courses and to learn about this, and then share what you're learning with your children so that you can help them bypass or skip all those steps so that they can take charge of their life and start to live and exist from a different state of being.
That's going to be a lot easier for parents who had less traumatic
Of
upbringings
course.
themselves. Let's say they were raised in healthy, loving families. It's going to
Mhm.
be a lot easier for them to their starting point is a lot higher than people who grew up in alcoholic homes or had some traumatic event happen. And I've worked with people, they were able to be very high functioning
Mhm.
on the surface, while underneath the rivers were like just, I mean, whitewater river rafting under there, right?
Right.
All the things they're pretending didn't happen, or they may not be pretending that they didn't happen, but they haven't resolved, they haven't healed. And so eventually, I want your point of view,
Mhm.
they surface. Once the child gets to an age that triggers them and their trauma, all bets are off. Now they're dysregulated and they're like deers in a headlight. How do I parent from this? Okay.
I love that you said this because this ties back to what you brought up earlier about the soul coming here to have an experience. You signed up for it because you are here to discover just how powerful you are. And I would actually say the person who was born into those lower vibrational situations are truly the blessed soul because they get to experience life from such a higher perspective. Because when you experience those lows, the highs that come from after doing the healing are so high. They're so expansive. It's blissful. It's exhilarating. And I would say you're actually one of the luckier ones.
Mm.
So to just, yes, it's easy to fall into that victim mentality, but no, you were literally given the golden ticket to experience life at its fullest if willing to embrace the journey and to fulfill your soul's contract. So yes, initially it will be harder, but you've been through hard stuff already. And as you start to take the steps and clear your karma and start to lighten your load and reach these higher states of consciousness, you will have an appreciation that will be so much more heightened than somebody who hasn't experienced those lows.
Yes. So the parents and well, children, we'll get to
Mhm.
being adult children of aging parents. I think that's an important conversation too. But not making ourselves wrong. Parents out there, do not make yourselves wrong for wherever you are in the journey with your children. You may have missed the 20-year window when they of being a conscious awake parent, but it's never too late to begin.
Never.
Yeah. And I've over and over again seen that. And it's almost as if, no, it is as if whatever the relationship is now in this moment is what it's always been in a timeline. I'm going off on a weird sort of tangent, but all the things that happened before are done. They're gone. They're
Mhm.
just,
It
we
doesn't
talked
exist
about
anymore.
this. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And all the pain that we cause ourselves is a story we attach to them. I should have been a better parent. I shouldn't have done that. I should have said this. I should have known that that was happening. I mean, all the beat yourself up things. But be now you're not conscious in the moment. And here's your opportunity to be conscious in the moment
Right,
and be that
right.
parent you want to be. So I
And I think the key also with that is just to, this is where we sit down and we create choices. So, for instance, my children, unfortunately, they were brought up in a home that wasn't, my ex-husband and I didn't see eye to eye.
mm,
And we were brought up very differently. Not that one's right or one's wrong, It's just polar opposite upbringings. So the gift in that was to point out to my children, now you get a choice. You can do it this way or that way. And I think that is the most important tool that we can use as a conscious parent, is just presenting the choices, because our children may not be able to see them, and then allow them to make those choices and hold
So
their hand through the process.
yes, I love that. But that brings up another question for me.
Mhm.
Again, what I'm hearing out there is since COVID, there was such a dysregulation because routines were interrupted, connection was interrupted, all the things that make us or help us to regulate in our lives and be able to respond. What I mean by that out there, folks, is being able to respond to life rather than react to life. There are two clients whose husbands, and it's husbands, and I won't talk about the actual political affiliation, but they've gone down some rabbit holes. They've
Mhm.
changed in such a way that now they feel that their children are unsafe. They are not in alignment as a couple, but they don't want to leave the person because the children will be left. Do you know what I'm saying? So how
Right. I know.
yeah, and that's a tough one. I mean, I'm kind of throwing a big one out there to you.
Well, how I would talk to them is, what would you want your children to do in that case? When
Mm,
you start to compromise yourself, then what kind of an example are you leading for them?
mhm,
And it's imperative that we show our children that choosing ourself and honoring our truth is essential if we're going to live our fullest life. And every situation is going to be different, but a separation isn't necessarily a loss. There's so much that can be gained from it. And to allow our children to see that it's not really broken, it's just redirecting.
mm, mm. Yeah, which doesn't make anyone wrong, but and it comes back to it was right for a season.
And the messages, by staying, there are signals being sent to our children. For instance, our child may see us as weak if we're always compromising, if we're letting things go, if we're accepting things at the expense of our own integrity and self respect.
Mhm,
That is a message in itself.
mhm,
I don't want my children to make those decisions, to sacrifice their own well being, thinking they're doing a service to another, but they're really not, because that
mhm,
is setting the foundation for their future.
mhm, mhm. And it goes back to them being sovereign beings that they're here for this journey. They're here for these lessons and how they navigate that is up to them and paramount to their evolution. So, what do you think are some common unconscious things that parents do?
A common one. This is a tough one for me because I've done so much work and I'm so in the present moment to be able to tap into other people's energy.
I've got one for you.
Okay, yes. Yes.
So I think one of the things that parents don't realize that they do is they're telling their children how to be or how to think or what to do, as opposed to the Socratic method of, well, what's your intuition? What do you think would be the right way to go? So
Mhm. Okay, well, this is why I'm so disconnected from it.
just
I,
you
I
are
can't even
Socrates.
go there. I can't even resonate with that. But you're right. You should be doing this, or you should be focusing on that. Again, it comes down to choices. Perhaps they should be focusing on, but if you're going to tell them that that's what they have to do, again, they may want to go in the opposite direction, and that is their choice. So again, it's creating choices and letting go of being responsible for another person's happiness. And it
Yeah.
also ties back to what we were saying earlier as a parent. And if you're in an unhappy relationship, you're only responsible for yourself. And we need to teach our children to be responsible for their own happiness, their own well being. And that's why
Yes.
we're here.
Yeah. Another one, and I pull these out of, I coach women in their 50s and 60s that have 20 something year old daughters,
Okay.
etc. So I'm pulling
This
stuff.
is great. I love
Yeah.
this. Let's go there.
I think oftentimes parents think that their children should XYZ so that they are happy. So they want their
Mhm.
children to be happy, which you just said, we're not responsible for their happiness. Absolutely. We are responsible to feed them, love them, and get them into adulthood safely as possible.
Exactly.
We're not responsible for their happiness, but we think that they should be this way because that's the way we are.
Hmm.
So to take into account, and this is leadership stuff too, when you're
Hmm.
leading a team, you don't speak to them in your language, you speak to them in their language. In other words, some people are very supportive and relationship oriented and connection is really important. And then the other ones are drivers and they just want the results and stop talking to me like a human. I just want just so where does your child land on that? And how do you need to talk to them so they can hear you? Like meet them again where they are, but to know that what you think would make them happy is not necessarily true. That's for them to decide.
It ties into your talents, your passions, which will lead you to your purpose, which is ultimately what everybody wants, is to feel that joy and fulfillment later on in life. And to help them explore what interests them, what lights them up inside. And that was a big one for me as I'm preparing, helping my eldest prepare for post-secondary education, because
Mm,
I was loved science and I was brought up in a household that we just naturally gravitated towards certain subjects. My eldest daughter can't stand science. And then it all the programming came in from my parents' generation about what kind of careers that they will need to fall into in order to support a certain lifestyle. And having to let that go was a big one. And she discovered that she loves creative writing, and this is where she excels in, and it comes with ease. And so we, instead of having to be good at everything, really encourage them to follow what lights them up inside. Where does their passions lead them?
yeah, yeah. And that's the generation Gen Z, what is it, A? I mean, where are
uh,
we going? I don't know.
I'm at a
They are
loss with that
much
one.
better at some things than we are. And I'm a little older than you. I say a little. Anyway, they are much better at some things like quality of life. It matters. Where on the other hand, they're not as good at taking feedback or dealing with dissension of any kind. I think that we can take a lesson from them in a way. My older daughter did exactly what I did, only more and better. And she's smarter and she speaks four languages and she's went to Georgetown and she's, I mean, oh my God, this. And my younger daughter was like, Ma, I don't think I want to go to college. And my brain exploded like a firecracker on the top of my head. And I stayed calm and I said, what would you like to do, dear?
That's a hard one.
Oh my God. And she has forged her own extraordinary, she became a poet, a published author. And
Amazing,
this is, I think she's
amazing.
on her sixth book now. And so, had I gotten in her way, this destiny might not have unfolded. And she's smart though. She's really smart. She said, "Could you help me with dad? Just help," because he had more degrees than wallpaper. It's just,
Right?
and he was very cool about it. To both of our surprise, he really did well with it. But that's a good example. So, and that also leads into the question that I wanted to ask you. So parents are out there going, yeah, okay, okay, I hear what you're saying, but how do I pause? How do I stop? How do I not knee-jerk react and say something that I can't take back in any situation?
Well, pausing is a skill that we should apply to in yes, to everything throughout the entire day. I think that that is just a gift that our children are giving us if we can learn to pause within those moments and just to have the intention, the goal to just listen and then voice to your children that I'm just going to absorb it all and reflect on this so that I can come back, we can revisit this conversation, and I can be prepared to guide you in the best way I possibly can, because the world is changing so much. All of this is so new, and I want to gather all the information possible before I help guide you so that I don't guide you down a wrong, there's no wrong path, but a path that you may regret.
Yes, yes, I that's brilliant. And I hope people are taking notes out there. So let me get back to you. Let me digest this. Let me think about this because I want to respond in a way that's in your highest good.
Mhm.
So I love that. That's beautiful. How do you recommend parents move from guilt parenting, obligation parenting to dharma parenting?
That is leading through example and really practice being present and bringing in that element of play. For instance, over the holidays, we started to play the candy game after one of our Christmas dinners, and to see my sisters and I dancing with the kids and my uncle, and to just be in the moment, to allow them to experience us just being and not being in our heads, not having to do anything. That is leading through example and in opening the door to what it is to live in a state of dharma.
Mm,
Again, it comes back to energy. If we are sitting in guilt, if we are sitting in worry, then we're manifesting from that energy, which is all ego based and control. So inviting in the element of play is showing them to surrender to the moment. This is how I'm feeling in this moment. How can I alchemize this energy into a higher vibration and see things from a higher perspective, disconnect, create choices once again, and to explore. We to bring in more curiosity into every day.
so one of the things that I've looked at, am looking at, is how do we support? You're in it. You're not in the weeds exactly with this because they are teenagers now.
Mhm.
But the access to digital devices, the access to social media, and now the access to AI. How do we protect our children? How do we help them navigate without overly controlling? How do we hold the container for what they're up against and to keep them from outsourcing their critical thinking?
By having conversations with them. They are actually way more advanced than us. With respect to AI, they can point it out in a second. They don't get drawn into the illusion of it. So, if anything, in my household, the roles have flipped. They're teaching me.
Mm.
And I am learning through them. That's also empowering them. The world is shifting so quickly, and I do not believe they are a victim to it. They are actually in the driver's seat, and they're fully aware of what is real and what isn't. As where we can help them is to point out what is soul led, what is soul driven, versus, for instance, somebody who writes a book from start to end versus somebody who generates a book through AI. Somebody put their heart and soul into it. And there is so much value in that because it's empowering. So to teach them the difference of when is it helpful to use ChatGPT, for instance, and that it can help you, assist you throughout your day, and when are you just taking the easy road? Because
Mhm.
you're also there's a gift in the process of creating for yourself.
Yes. Oh, yes. It occurs to me that we could ask them, we could ask them,
Exactly. That's what I do.
how do I, how, what, what boundaries do you believe a 15-year-old should have around this, or a 13-year-old or an 8-year-old or something like that? Like what, because I didn't know when Facebook came along in 2012 or whatever it was. I did not know the dark side. I did not know the pitfalls. I did not know the dark web. I knew nothing. I did know that this is now an access point for bullies and all these things, but
Hmm.
things have evolved along the way. But maybe we could ask them. Now, they might curate their answers so that you don't.
Well, this is where it's helpful if you can read energy so that
Yeah, good point.
you can tell when they're twisting things. But again, you can talk about what is safe. If you don't know that person, I'm very open and forward about 55-year-old man could pretend that he's 15.
Yeah,
And so to not engage and become too close to somebody that you don't really know, because
yeah,
you never know who's on the other side. But I also don't want to feed fear into them. So
yes,
just to create that level of awareness, but I don't want them to isolate and not engage in the real world either in fear of.
yeah. And just, I want to get to our parents. So, one last thing is, I wish I would have had cut out the internet at 10 p.m. so they can't access stuff, or put everybody put their phones in a safe or somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? It would have been good had I had more knowledge and better boundaries. And I realize, I mean, it's always hindsight is 2020. I would be a much better parent now than I was then. But it goes back to we did the best we could.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that you said that. And again, it's opening up that dialogue and also reminding them that once it's out there, it can never, it's forever out there. It's in the field. So careful of the messages that you're putting out on the
And the
web.
photos.
Yes, because that is a reflection of you. And do you really, what kind of attention are you trying to attract? What is important to you? Are you just wanting to be seen, or are you just wanting to create because it's fun and you want to share? Again, it ties back to intention
Yes.
and that level of awareness that this is a reflection of you.
So I want to move to another subject that's not small and then
Okay.
get to the parents. That is, and we touched on it before we even started the podcast. That is this. So there's a night. How do I present this? On the one hand, people who are abusive to us emotionally, energetically, spiritually, I don't believe should have access to us. On the other hand, what if it's your child? And if I just love her enough, if I just say the right thing, so now she's a sovereign being and she's on this journey, how much do I engage in it or protect myself? Or now, on the other hand, there's a trend out there of just cut everybody out of your life. Um, so I know you know what I'm asking.
I do know what you're asking. And I love that you brought up this trend because I too heard about it. I don't see it as a trend. I see it like you as a necessity. And the woman who was speaking on it being a trend was speaking from a very healed place. She wants to see people reconnect and resolve these issues instead of cutting people out of your life. But that is a result of somebody who's done the work. And yes, we can get to that place. But in order to get to that place, sometimes it's essential that we cut those people out of our lives so that we can get to a place where the triggers don't trigger us anymore. We have healthy boundaries. We can invite people or invite people into our lives once we feel strong enough to be able to navigate whatever situation that is to come. So yes, it is essential. I believe that if somebody's in your life and it's just unhealthy, it's toxic, it keeps you in a spiraling loop downwards, then you will forever be stuck. So cut them out, do the work that you need to do so that you can navigate any situation that comes from that point forward. And then with respect to our children, that one is trickier because we have a soul contract with them. Until they are an adult, they are our responsibility. So this is when it's essential to say, no, this is unhealthy. I'm not going to engage in this anymore. Also, pointing out patterns of behavior is so important. Pointing out that, okay, when you come to me with this, I react in this way. Would you agree that this is taking place? So both people make an agreement to seeing the pattern and then determining what we're going to work on. How are we going to show up the next time this comes to be, because it will. And then again, practicing presence and calling it out. We're in the loop again.
Mm-hmm.
You're firing. I'm wanting to react, but I'm going to hold back right now in this moment because I promised us that I was going to do this, and I'm hoping you can meet me here. That has been a game changer in my relationship with my daughter.
Wonderful. I was going to say that's so you've also laid the foundation for her to be able to hear you in that way. Going back to once you've done the work and you're healed and you don't have the triggers, the question is it in my highest good and the highest good of the other person to actually re-engage, or is it done? And thank you for the lessons of getting me to the place where I healed what I needed to heal, because that person has not done the work, or it could trigger them, or whatever it is. But what is in the best and highest good of all? And there's a belief that, especially with women, I think, oh, that's not nice. I
It's so
should I should give them another pint of blood because I have an extra pint here. Just because you should out there doesn't mean, wait, just because you can
doesn't
doesn't
mean you
mean
should.
you should. Yeah.
Again, even as adults, point out the pattern.
Hmm.
And they're not going to like it. Trust me, they'll
No.
run in the other direction. So we point out the patterns, even in our adult relationships, and say, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Hmm.
And and then opening the door or leaving it open is up to you. Only you know that.
Hmm.
But by pointing out what the essentials are, if you can meet me in this place, then I am willing to re-explore this.
Yeah. And there is a caveat so that a person that we're talking about, if they are alcoholic in practicing and their minds
Mhm.
are therefore not
Mhm.
who they are,
They're
they're really
altered,
not
yeah.
who they're altered.
No.
Yes, their
Mhm.
thinking is altered. Or mental illness, or
Mhm.
so they are not going to be able to hear me. It does take courage. What you're saying takes courage, presence, and groundedness to be able to say, here's our pattern. Here's what I'd like to see happen in our relationship. Here's my commitment to how I'm going to communicate. This is all very conscious and grown up. It's very mature.
Mhm.
Triggers usually take us back to being 8 years old or 10 years old, whenever the trauma happened. But if we're talking about somebody who's in mental illness or addiction, that's
Mhm.
not going to change. That's an unsafe
Yes, that is a deal breaker in my opinion, because then there's an energetic entanglement happening, and
Yes.
and they will just suck you into the vortex.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And
So that's a no.
there's something called the Tanal in ancient wisdom, which is everything here on planet Earth. So you are part of my Tanal. Thank you. This house, all the things going on. This is my Tanal. And my job is to be impeccable. My job is to be aligned with my values. My job is to be present and do the best I can in any given moment. That's my job.
Mhm.
Somebody with addiction or mental illness or the victims. Anyway, they are committed to this chaotic, wild Tanal, their world.
Their world is
I'm
chaotic.
not engaging. I'm not, and that will make them crazy because they want you to engage. They want to be able to manipulate you and do all the things. And I'm off on a tangent, but I think it's important that we stay in alignment with our values.
A
And
100%, 100%, because then they will never learn. And again, hitting them with the truth
they can't hear it.
is actual, exactly, and it is your best defense as well, because they won't want to keep hearing the same thing
Yeah.
over and over and over.
And I have a specific thing in my mind. I asked permission to speak the truth. I spoke the truth, and whoa, World War III. And then
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm not going to engage here. I'm not going to engage. And I set a really clear boundary. And that, but there's nothing to hook onto with me now.
But honestly, you did a service.
Yeah.
That was your job in that moment.
Yeah.
Yes, you are going to trigger others, and then it's up to them whether they choose to grow from the
Yeah.
situation. And if they don't, well, then again, that's their choice.
Well, and it goes back to intention. My intention was pure. My
Mm.
intention was nobody speaks the truth to this woman. And she gave me permission, and here it is, as lovingly as possible. So let's move on to
Let's do it.
parents. Yes. Do you have living parents
I do.
too?
Both my parents are still living. Yes.
Okay. So what's the greatest lesson that you've learned from your parents at this time in life?
I will say it even goes back to my grandparents, my parents and my grandparents, the to always self-develop, that the learning never ends, to continuously strive to be your best self in every moment. So I'm lucky that was something that was embodied. We embody it,
Mhm.
myself and my siblings, and it's thanks to them.
Mhm. So what I'm gleaning, first of all, who you are in front of me is certainly has been informed by who your parents are, clearly,
Yes,
and your
definitely.
grandparents. It sounds like, and this is one of the things I advocate for all humans, it sounds like their perception is not narrowing, which is what most aging people, their worlds become smaller, whether it's emotional, energetic, or physical. They're not open to new ideas and change and all the things that keep the brain alive and the synapses firing and all.
Exactly.
Okay. So your parents sound like they get that.
They
Yeah.
do. They definitely do. Yes.
Okay. So a super ager, one of the characteristics is a social life. They have a social life. Those are the ones that are going into their 80s and their brains are still functioning and they're having
Yes,
joy
my parents are still going to New Year's Eve parties and dancing, and yes,
and
they.
doing all the things.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're going to have to pull then from your coaching experience and other people's parents
Right.
because
Okay, I could do that.
okay, good. Because what I'm finding, and I'd like you to speak to, is in the same way. So now that's a sandwich generation. In the same way, this person is looking at the child or the children to be a certain way. They're
Mhm.
looking at their parents to be different. If they just blah, 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 then I'd be happy. So let's talk about that. Is that
I
reasonable?
No, it's not, because you're only responsible for your own happiness. And at that level of the game, they're likely not going to change. So to just my tool in that moment, and I have been around people like that, is to just really look at things from an even higher perspective and just see it as scenery. It's a movie. Let it unfold and just make light of the situation, laugh at the situation. Here we go. You know what's going to come out of their mouth. They're not
Mhm.
going to change. So giggle at what's happening and just allow things to be. If they choose to be grumpy, then that's just who they are. And there's something endearing with a grumpy old person as well. So don't try and change them, but laugh with them in the situation. And they may actually start to learn to laugh at themselves.
Yes, and honor that they come from a completely different generation.
Mhm.
We are at the tail end of people who grew up in the Depression, for example. And there's a
Mhm.
certain way that they look at and handle money. One thing that I impart, let's say I'm working with a 50-year-old woman, and she's, her mom, this, that, or the other thing, and she really should be doing blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what age do you sound like right now? Where is that voice coming from?
I would even ask her, why is it that you need to control her so much?
Oh, yeah, we got there to that question.
Again, it comes back to yourself. What part of yourself is needing to, that's the ego, and to just be aware of it.
Yeah.
That is something within.
It is. It is the ego, and it is the need for safety. If I can control mom and her health and stop being a victim, or why is she going out and dancing now? Lots of shoulds, right?
Mhm.
To realize that the control is about the fear that something's going to happen to mom or dad, fear that things are changed, fear that you have no say over the direction. It's like a child in a way. You
Yes.
don't have any say over their destiny either.
And you're also robbing yourself of
Yes.
just experiencing your life to the fullest. You're look at all that energy you're projecting and wasting when you can just pour that into yourself. Letting go of control is one of the hardest steps in this journey, but it's also one of the most freeing, liberating steps.
Yes.
So we
It
can
also
all not
allows,
wake up tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. I could get hit by a elk tomorrow.
Exactly.
The other thing, what I thought you were going to say, you said it's going to rob you of being able to be present. And then you said in your own life, which is absolutely correct. But also, it robs you of the ability to be present with this being who they are in this moment, because they're not always going to be here. They aren't.
Exactly.
To live in
Exactly.
fear that they're going to go, you're missing being with them now. You're missing that whole piece. So I wish, because my mom she was really smart and she was very funny and she was a little wacky.
I
And
love wacky.
oh yeah, this is wackadoodle. But I wish I had her in front of me now because I could really enjoy her. And like
Mhm.
you said, just kind of giggle at it. Like
Yes.
she would say things that were just out of the
Left field.
out of left field. She would say things that were out of left field. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I take it seriously rather than going, that's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
because that is their signature essence.
Yes.
So to really just love them and appreciate them for who they are in that moment, because you may not have another moment with them.
Yes. And
Uh,
don't be angry if they get it. Let's say they have an ailment,
mhm.
a serious one, and they choose a certain journey of healing, and you don't agree with it. But that's their sovereign journey. And it may mean that they're not here quite as long, but you got to let go of that one.
Exactly. It's their life. Let them live it.
That's it. It's their life. Let them live it. Don't take it so freaking seriously.
Because
And
they aren't a reflection of you.
no, no. And it comes back to our earlier conversation. What is your intention when you're with them? What is your intention? Is it to bring them joy? Is it to be joy? Is it to be connected? Is it to be love? Or is it to be right? Or is it to be in control? or is it to be whatever?
For myself, my intention is to be present.
Hmm.
Nothing brings me more joy than to see my parents witnessing life around them and
Mm.
to see their eyes light up as they're just witnessing their family, witnessing their friends, being with us, and to see the pride and love in their eyes for the family that they have, that they get to be around. So for me, that's where I get the greatest joy. We were again playing that candy game, and my parents were cuddling in the corner, and their eyes were just so lit up. And so I just took a moment, a snapshot of that image, and I hold
Mm.
on to that in my mind because that's how I want to remember them.
Yes, yes. And whether it is like your parents who were married for decades, if I remember correctly,
Mm-hmm.
or new relationships or whatever, is take the snap. They may not be in a relationship, but take the snapshot. You know,
Take the
I
snapshot.
I know my daughter, she's done so much work. She's very conscious, 28 years old. She reveres the time she spends with me, and she makes sure that it happens, and she holds it as precious. I know that without her saying it. One of the things that I said, "What do you want for Christmas?" And she said, "I want you to handwrite 10 wisdoms for me."
It's beautiful.
It is. It is. And so I'm in my steam room and they're coming in and I got to run out, write one down. And so I'm going to do it in calligraphy. And she doesn't listen to my podcast, so she doesn't, I'm not giving anything away. But isn't that cool? But my relationship with my older daughter, completely different, completely different. And that brings up something too. It they can be in the same family with the same parents and the same set of circumstances and have a completely different experience. Like it's
Absolutely.
as if it was a completely different reality. It's like, whoa. So,
Well, and even ourselves, we can be just our state of being can shift the whole experience as well. This is why it's so important to me to share the tools that I've acquired over the years and to teach people how to shift their energetic field so that they can reach these higher states of consciousness and transform any situation, any experience, no matter where you come from.
yeah. Well, and we touch on something that is critical, and it is the underlying foundation of being able to be present is to get rid of that stuff, whether it's the Velcro in our luminous field, our energetic field, spirit, whatever, that goes back to the work. And that's why people are listening to the podcast. They are finding some sort of solace or information or tool or what have you. So if people wanted to work with you, I want you to share where they can find you. But if people wanted to work with you on conscious parenting and that kind of thing, is that an offering that you have?
Well, I actually have a course that I am going to start on March 1st. You can sign up for it now at lianemarieLambert.com. It coincides with my book, and it's beyond just parenting and relationships. My goal is to teach people how to shift their energetic field,
Mhm.
how to master the tool of consciousness and to understand what it is to be an energetic being and hopefully to experience what it is to live outside of programming and step into 5D consciousness.
Wow.
So yes, you can, and it will absolutely transform all your relationships. But again, it comes down to you doing the inner work. And I want to empower people to really discover what it is to raise in vibration and that you can do it yourself.
And this is a group, a Zoom type of thing?
Yes, it'll be a Zoom, a 9-week course starting on March 1st. It'll be a Sunday call and it'll be an hour and a half. So there'll be live coaching and it coincides with the nuggets from my book to
Mhm.
help people reach these higher states of consciousness.
Please remind them of the title of your book.
Yes, it's Karma to Dharma, a new age guide to becoming superhuman.
Who doesn't want that?
Exactly.
Anything that I should have asked you about parenting? Any nugget you want to impart that we might have missed regarding parenting or being a child of a parent or any of the things?
I'll add one thing that I think, again, is tying in that element of fun into parenting and pointing out the patterns, again, that we're recognizing in our children. So I have one child who has a hard time. She gets drawn into the bells and whistles, and managing money is harder for her because in the moment she needs that item. Bring in song, and so that the songs really will help us trigger, or not trigger, but it creates that pause moment. And so that we can ask ourselves, is it really worth it? Do I
Mhm.
really need this item? Is it really going to change my life? So the song, it's a Missy Elliott song. Is it worth it? You make it work it. And so I brought that into my teaching lesson, and she started to hear that song when she was presented with choices.
I'm going to write that down for somebody I know. Is it worth it? Yeah, it's an exchange of life energy.
Exactly, exactly. And it will, because once you put that into the field, it automatically will pop into their field in the moment when needed. And it's a helpful tool.
Very cool. I like that. Thank you. I have one last question.
Yes,
Ready?
shoot.
I asked it of you last time, but it's my favorite question. How do you recommend that our listeners go out and live their most alive lives?
Woo! I recommend that you again hit that pause button, that you are never stuck. Being stuck is an illusion. And to remind yourself that you can always approach any situation differently. So embrace the possibilities that can come, and to explore what it is to elevate in frequency and put it out there and be open to all that comes from it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here again. What a great way to start the year. And we'll make sure this gets out before your course begins. I hope lots of people sign up. Thank you out there so much for listening today. If this conversation resonated with you, please rate, review, and share this episode with people that you care about. The more we openly share how to navigate life with grace, presence, and nervous system regulation, the better off all of us will be. And if you're feeling called to go deeper, want to explore coaching with me, visit wakeupwithjoni.com to book your complimentary call and see if coaching is a fit for your next chapter. For the in between times, I invite you to read my book, Stop, Look, Choose Your Journey to Peace and Freedom, a guide to conscious choice in every life. It's a combined book and workbook, so it'll keep you on your toes. Now, beautiful humans, it's your turn to go out and live your most alive lives.